Moving on to agenda item number 6. 6A is to receive a report from myself, Town Mayor, and obviously I've just been to quite a few civic engagements, one of them being the Treasury opening, another the Football Club celebrating 100 years, the NATD Awards, the dance, and the Armed Forces Day flag raising. So rather than give an individual thing, I just want to say each and every one of those events was absolutely outstanding, and they all represent the communities of this town, the different avenues of what hard work goes in by so many volunteers. It is really, really something that we should be proud of and promoting much, much more. I will say about the Treasury being the old HSBC bank, it was particularly lovely to see that a lot of the old features have been retained and really brought into use within the building. So it was really good. The football event was very well attended. Councillor Ward and myself went to that one, equally as was the dance. So it's been a very full month for that, and I've enjoyed every one, and I think that we should be very, very proud of our town. So moving on to 6B, this is to receive reports from members appointed to outside bodies. And I believe Councillor Ward, you had a report to give. If you would like to use the mic, please, Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an old report because I didn't attend the last meeting because of eye problems. So these minutes from the AGAR users group are already...
So can I just check that that's turned on? Because I wasn't meant to see so much struggling to hear.
It turned on at this one. Hello? Is this... Can you hear me?
No.
It's not working.
Right, so I think the minutes for this AGAR users group meeting are already online because it was at the end of April, but I'll just do a quick summary. So the meeting confirmed Whitby Harbour's full compliance with the Port Marine Safety Code and related regulations, with a designated person providing independent oversight. Key discussions included enhanced support for the fishing industry, particularly regarding tuna fishing and grant applications, alongside plans for improved pot storage management. Progress was noted on harbour maintenance, including dredging capacity increases, and a working group was proposed to review Whitby Swing Bridge opening times and the aims to enhance the harbour's accessibility and economic potential. There's quite a bit more, but the minutes are online. That's all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Do we have any other member reports to come forward? Thank you. So we move on to 6C, which is to receive a report from the town planner. Right, it is a
Mindful of the time, members, the report is there in the pack. I'm happy to take any questions or clarification.
Any questions, members? No, thank you for the report then. Moving on to agenda item number 7, which is the neighbourhood plan submission. This is to consider the amended Whitby neighbourhood plan together with the supporting submission documents and to determine whether the plan should be submitted to North Yorkshire Council for the next stage of the neighbourhood planning process. Obviously, members, if there is a note, a writing note with that, that due to the length, the full documents are available to see, and we were given a link for that. So, any comments, members? Councillor Wilde? Yes.
I just want to thank the people involved on the neighbourhood plan. Having read it, it's an absolutely great piece of work, and I'm sure that North Yorkshire Council won't have found very much wrong with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Any other comments, members? Right, so this is to consider whether we should be submitting the plan to North Yorkshire. I have someone who will move that. Councillor Lehman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Abbott. All in favour? Thank you. Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you, Councillor Wood. Agenda item number 8, to review the effectiveness of internal control. And this is to consider the Council's annual review of the effectiveness of the system of internal control for the year ending 31st of March 2026. And that's having regard to the officer assessment and the recommendations of the Finance, Governance and General Purposes Committee. So, move on to agenda item number 8, members. There is the recommendations there. Do I have any comments or questions? Do I have anyone who would move to the recommendations? Councillor Howell, do I have a seconder? Councillor Bolton, all in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 9. And 9A is to receive and note the end of year financial statement for 25-26.
I would just like to comment that this is a very important document. We haven't been given enough time to thoroughly review it and digest it, along with all the other stuff we were getting.
I'm sorry, Councillor Lehman, but we do get the agendas and the information packs 3 clear days before the meeting.
Yes, I appreciate that.
That's the situation where we are. That's the legislation that's in place. We must receive them 3 days before, and we have. And do you know what, Councillor, I will say, I've been away for the weekend, but I've read every page of this. Councillor Amanda Smith.
Could I seek clarification, please? Under expenses, the first item is income. Can you explain how we've got an income under expenses?
Firstly, just in response to Councillor Lehman's points, I completely agree, and I've set that out in the accompanying reports explaining challenges that it might be if we had this year getting the account even to this stage. I have had to reconstruct the entire year's accounts. That led me to the issues with 2024-25 that I tried in desperation in the end as the only possible course of action to completely reconstruct, which, just for information, takes about a week's worth of solid work, so it's about 50 hours. That's proved impossible for the reasons set out in the report. Ideally, my plan was to get this out to Finance Committee in the first draft form earlier. You'll note from the minutes of that meeting that wasn't possible, and that explanation was given at that meeting. Frankly, we are lucky we've got it here this evening. It very much came down to the wire of, do you get this with the accompanying explanations, or do we miss the legal deadline and risk potentially another no assertion non-compliance matter next year, when we're hopefully, as we've heard from members of the public this evening, trying to move beyond that, trying to get everything in order, so that next year we don't have any non-compliant matters, so we can stop the expenditure and all the associated issues of having non-compliant accounts and governance. So it's a judgment call. Members are within their right to decide not to accept this evening, to give yourselves more time. That's a matter for members. I've done as much as I can. I've brought the explanations, put it before you. Decisions, as ever, are for members to take. In response to Councillor Smith's question, every cost centre, if you look at the report sheets, and again, Councillor Smith, I'm always very, very happy to talk you through any of this, so please do feel free to raise these questions with me. This is the first time you're seeing accounts presented in this way. I had hoped it was an improvement, it would be more transparent than you previously had. Every cost centre has associated income and expenditure, So there is always going to be an income cost centre, which is primarily going to be income, obviously, and then there's other areas of expenses where there's going to be income. So it's just a wording matter, if you see what I mean. So,
sorry. I'll speak to you later. You can explain it again.
Thank you. I've got three councillors wishing to come in. Councillor Lehman.
I wasn't getting at you at all about the AGAR itself. I appreciate there's a massive amount of hard work you've done very well to get it done in that time. My concern was everything else that came with it. Can that not be presented to the councillors in advance of the 3 days?
I think that I'm going to say, I would hope moving forward we will be in a much stronger position. Next year we won't have all these difficulties.
For example, the one on the, where are we? The IT support or HR support. That was probably done maybe a week in advance of this. So could that not be released to council when it's finished, so we could trickle feed it to us rather than wait until the 3rd day and not do all of them in one go?
potentially, I don't mean to be disrespectful until someone's done the job on this side of the table and realise that we tend to work to a deadline, so we plan out the minimum clear number of days. Where possible, we will always try and aim to get things out earlier, so more often than not, planning agendas are out earlier than 3 clear days because they're ready and the information is there. With a number of these items at the moment, we are having very long agendas because there is so much to get through. They're often coming down to things coming in a day or so before the deadline. There's lots of reports that are going into these pages, as you can see. I absolutely understand, Councillor, how long it takes to read some of this. I can assure you it takes even longer to write it all. And yes, you have my commitment wherever possible, we will share it in advance. I'm slightly wary of sending out a report by report basis because there are always the potential for some associated changes. You saw even this time we published with the internal report we had, and then an updated version came through that evening, and I had to unpick it all and do it again. So yes, wherever possible we will, but I prefer to send you the finished product when I'm certain that everything in that is as it should be and needs to be.
Councillor Hunt.
Thanks, Chair. Is this the new software that we're on now with the financial report? And you're happy with it?
Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Thank you very much. On the explanation of variances, would it be possible to add in under the precept that the increase, part of the increase was due to the second homes tax that rose at double?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, and thank you for advancing notice of this question, Councillor Moheron. Yes, so generally with the explanation of variances, the auditor is looking for the breakdown of the figures, so the numerical values rather than the percentages. The second homes element, the double council tax of the second homes element, is built into what's known as the council tax base. And that's normally the number of properties within the town, or the parish, that are liable for council tax. There's been a multiplier applied to that for the second homes element, which ultimately understands prior to the last financial year. That multiplier changes every year, so there is always an element of movement in that. For example, this year, if we have set a 0% increase of council tax freeze, that would actually have been a 3% decrease in council tax. So I'm very happy to include it. That's a long way of saying very happy to make the point, but that would have been the case anyway, and it's the council's response to that, the choices it made, the auditors are looking for. So you could, as a council, have decided we are getting that boost, therefore we are going to lower our precept potentially, or not raise it as much, and that would have balanced it out. And that wouldn't necessarily affect the numerical rise, and that's really what they're testing. But for completeness, I'm very happy to include that.
Councillor Williams.
Just a few observations.
It's turned off, so it was working.
Just a few observations. Public toilets, according to this, is we made £231.61, but there's no community donation. Now, the community donation is meant to be a cash change out of the thing, so why isn't there a community donation in there? Do you want to do the midfield? If you want to.
No, I'll make those go.
Secondly, for the allotments, there is a deficit of £307.99 on the water bill. Why aren't the allotment holders paying this? And what is the 1,461.16, the total amount that we've collected from them? So is there any more to add on to that at a later date? The museum, the actual amount of money we've got from Littenfield is 93,831.88, yet we've only spent £64,531.1p, which leaves a surplus of 29,387p. Should this not be ring-fenced for the museum repairs, and that only that, because it is money that live in Philippines, and we should only be using it for that cause. The Christmas festival, it would appear that it's actually a loss maker for this council, because we're getting £15,000 from the -6 money, which we can't guarantee. So, doing the figures, it would appear that we're losing £9,521.04p. What are we going to do to try and make it break even? Because really, it's at these figures, it isn't actually, as far as I can see, a benefit to Whitby traders, because they're not getting a lot of benefit from the Christmas market, so they tell me, yet we're having to subsidise it as well, and this amount of money that is on there doesn't include office costs, so the loss is going to be even greater. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Starting off with the Danfo community donation, then, I agree. There have historically been amounts budgeted for surplus income and then the community donation. For some reason, Danfo are paying us a lump sum each year, and we're not breaking down what the community donation is within that. That's part of, if you remember, the wider conversation we had here, and certainly in a bit more detail at the Finance Committee recently, around some of the questions that I've put back to Danfo over the last 3 years' figures, for example, and why the community donation appears to be being absorbed into their wider accounts, and also having a 50-50 split applied to it, which I don't believe is ever the intention. So those discussions are ongoing. Because I can't get that clarity, I put it in the accounts last year as that lump sum we received, and I put it against the surplus income, because I don't have the accurate enough figures to separate it out, because that's all they've provided. They haven't given us that breakdown yet. Allotments is an interesting one. Please bear in mind, this is the first time, I believe, that you've seen, as I say, the accounts broken down like this into this kind of cost centre, where I've tried to group services and show you all the income and all the related expenditure, so you can see the net, the overall position of these different types of service. Bear also in mind, this wasn't my year last year, so I've reconstructed it based on the evidence that I've been able to find, and whilst I'm certain of all the figures relating to allotments, What was not 100% clear in every case was the breakdown between rent and the water charges that each tenant paid. Where I've been able to delineate some of the water charge elements, I've put it for transparency purposes here against the allotment water charges line, but you didn't actually budget for that. You had an allotment rents overarching budget income line that just included water charges. Whereas what I'm trying to do is to show how much the water is costing us and how much we're recovering against that. So that is accurate in terms of total income and expenditure, but it may not necessarily be 100% in the right income line between allotment rents and allotment water charges. But you're right, I still think we are undercharging or under-recovering water bills for the allotments. But in doing this exercise and breaking it out in this way, we will know exactly how much we're paying. So the £499.99 is correct. We now know when setting future years' allotment rents, we need to look to recover that amount of water charges, for example. We will always be playing catch-up. That's quite normal in the council with allotments with water charges, because you've done it in a way of looking at how much it's cost and then increasing water charges in arrears, almost. The lit and fill, this is a complicated one. Again, I've tried to present it as a cost centre showing lit and fill museum income versus what we spend on the building, but that's not the total picture. So within that, as I've touched upon in my narrative report later on, there are a number of payments that have been offset for the electrical works advance. That won't show in this because it's a creditor. So it's a balance sheet transaction, but in a receipts and payments rather than income and expenditure model, it would show it against that total expenditure. That also doesn't incorporate any staffing charges, it doesn't incorporate the portion of the insurance that we offset against the 60% emissions, which is accounted for in the lease agreement. So what's presented in our accounts is then effectively taken out of that and changed manually to incorporate the various different elements for when we present it to JMC and they see the totality of the picture of the council's expenditure. But that's separated out. So staff roles in a different column here and insurance is in a different column. Going forward, I'm hoping we can split that out in a better way. So I'm talking to the insurance broker at the moment about getting a breakdown, because all we get at the moment is how much our insurance is, how much the cover for each item is. But what I'm seeking to get is what's the cost to the council, for example, of insuring this building and then each of our individual assets, because that exact amount then can be set against the income that we receive from the lit and fill. And your final comment, Christmas Festival, I agree to a point. So the 106 money is given to us through those arrangements. That's agreed by the 106 working group, led by North Yorkshire Council. That obviously makes the event sustainable, and I understand that the Community Events Committee are looking at this quite closely to look at potential revenue increases and cost-cutting exercises for potentially planning when that 106 funding might not be available in the future.
About the target, about allotments, I have tried for 2 years to bring up the water, and I've been told every time it takes 2 years to get anything. So I've given the years notice, but we still don't seem to be able to catch up. As regards to the public toilets, again, probably what you're saying about the lit and fill might be the same, but there's no charges for repairs on that. And would it be possible that we have a proper count of the museum building, including all those extra expenses that you've talked about? So we actually have a clear thing of as it's our biggest asset, that we know exactly where we stand in with all expenses and all income. So have a separate account. Maybe just for our own use, it doesn't have to be for any other financial use, but I think it would be a great asset to the councillors to know exactly where we stand.
I On the public toilets, there were no repairs and maintenance bills last year, so what you see there is the totality of the income and expenditure on the public toilets for that,
Yes, how bad it was.
for that financial year. So yes, in theory, there may be small surplus. Yes, on the septic account for the building here, that's what's prepared, as I said, and that's what goes to the JMC, because that's what they look at when determining the share, the up to 60% of museum income that the Littlefield pay over to offset those costs. So that's a separate, because it needs to be presented in that separate way, but I can't present it in its entirety like that within our accounts because it would skew things. So we run an income and expenditure accounting, which is effectively accruals accounting. So there's certain things that have to be done in a certain way. So as I said, those payments that we made, £4,400 offset income, which otherwise would have been payment, doesn't show in this because it's a balance sheet figure. But that's all manually taken away and put together again when it goes to JMC. So it does show that totality.
Thank you, Ryan. Do I have any other comments or questions from members? Otherwise, we'll move to receive 9A, to receive and note the end of the year financial statements. Councillor Hall's moving, Councillor Abbott seconding. All in favour? I think that's unanimous. Thank you, members. 9B, this is to receive and consider the town clerk and responsible financial officer's supporting statement on the preparation of the 25-26 accounting statements and the restatement of 24-25 comparative figures and the limitation. I think we've heard from what happened there, so would anyone like to move that they receive it? Councillor Hall, seconded by Councillor Fowler. All in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. Move on to item 9C, which is to receive and consider the internal auditor's report for 25-26. Again, we've all had that in our packs. Any comments or questions, members? Councillor Ramsey.
I would just like to express my sheer horror at the report that's been handed down. Those of us being on the council for a while should be hanging our heads in shame that we've allowed it to get to this stage. Thanks very much for the work that's been done so far this year in order to bring us back into line. I'm hopeful that moving forward we can bring this council up to what would be a respectable standard. That's basically all I have to say.
Thank you. Any comments? I will just say that obviously there were a lot of issues that have been uncovered and they are going through the process. If they aren't rectified, they will be rectified in the future. But that has taken a tremendous amount of work. And yeah, I would agree. Hopefully for next year we will find ourselves in a very, very different position. So could I ask someone that we received? Councillor Shackleton, seconded by Councillor Abbott. All in favour? And again, that's unanimous. Thank you, members. 9D, to consider the assertions in section 1 of the annual government statement 25-26 of the annual government's accountability return and determine the council's responses thereto. Any comments, members?
members, you've seen the internal auditor's report. You've seen her tick box section where she's put no to all but 2 of them. It is of course your decision what you do when it comes to us completing section 1 of the AGAR. There are 10 boxes here, 10 assertions. The council is required to agree yes or no, or in my case not applicable, but it is applicable to us regarding charitable trusts. And the advice I think I will give you is generally where an internal auditor has ticked no. It's highly unlikely we can justify ticking yes, although it does happen. I have given you the relevant sections of the practitioner's guide needed in the pack that follows that form, which sets out the requirements that you would have to assure yourselves you have met in order to tick a yes assertion to those boxes. I think if I was asked for my opinion, which you may or may not wish to do as your RFO, probably the only box we could realistically tick yes to confidently would be box 6, where we maintain throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems. And that's because we changed the auditor and we brought in the auditor who's done the interim and year-end audit, and I think arguably she's proven competent and independent of the council, which has given us an objective view on whether our internal controls meet the needs of this authority. But it is up to members to consider your own views, of course.
Sorry, Councillor Smith.
I understand completely what the town clerk said. My question is, on box 6, it says throughout the year, are we justified, because we brought it in at least halfway through the year before we got the internal auditor in, are we justified in ticking yes for throughout the year? Or should we be mindful of the fact that we only got it in later on in the year?
It is a fair question. There's nothing in the guidance that states at which point in the year an auditor has to be appointed. It's typically done early in the financial year. The council didn't have an internal auditor appointed until February, I believe it was. And therefore the interim audit was done, but it was done later than usual. I draw your attention to the section of the practitioner's guide on page 104 of your packs for assertion 6, where it says to warrant a positive response to this assertion, the authority needs to have taken the following actions. Internal audit, the authority needs to appoint an independent and competent person to undertake an effective internal audit, to evaluate the effectiveness of its risk management, control and governance processes, considering internal auditing guidelines of small authorities. That the internal auditor must be able to demonstrate independence from the authority's financial decision making. The authority needs to ensure it's taking the necessary steps to facilitate the work of those conducting the internal audit. And there's further non-statutory guidance. So it's effectively rests on those 3 points and those 3 points alone. There's nothing about it having to be done at a certain time. But again, I suspect you're going to tick no to a lot of boxes, so if you want to tick no, that's the matter of the members.
Councillor Steve
So
Smith.
just to follow on, my concerns is over the allotments, the accounting for the allotments, it's in order to show.
Sorry, Councillor Smith, not everyone can hear. Could I ask you to use the mic? That's the mic.
Okay, yes. Thank you. It's really with regard to the process that was not taken for the accountant, the revenue coming from the allotments, because there was highlighted the shortfall there. Doesn't that mean to say that we have to answer no to that question? Say number 6.
No, sorry if I've led to a misunderstanding. There wasn't a shortfall in allotments.
Sorry. No, sorry, I'll rephrase that. The accountability of the record keeping was not up to standard, I believe, from what I read. Therefore, should we therefore answer no to the question?
So that wouldn't come under section 6, which is purely around the internal audit, not the external, I'll confuse things. Bringing in the internal auditor, and those 3 points I just read you're talking about financial management, accounting practices, which would better sit under assertions 1 and 2. We put in place a range of effective financial management, or we maintain an adequate system of internal control. So our system of internal control has the effectiveness report that I presented earlier. The internal auditor coming in and doing her job is a separate assertion. So she's testing our internal control, but the assertion 6 is, did we maintain throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems? So did we subject them to that internal audit? Because some councils, for example, forget to have an internal auditor. That's what they're getting at, basically. Did we have an internal audit? Because some councils don't. Amazing.
Thank you for clarification.
We've had a very thorough internal audit.
Yes, I appreciate that. I'll let you continue.
Sorry, I'll let you come back, Councillor.
There was something out of order, but can I propose that we tick yes to assertion number 6 before we move on any further?
Yeah, I think, would members like to go through these in, you know, in on 1 to 10, and then we know where we are, so we're not confusing anyone. So we'll start off with it's at the end of the internal
Next page. Next page.
Everybody's got the statement in front of them.
Yes.
Right, we're going to go through one by one. We'll take a vote on each one as we discuss it, and then move on to the next one.
Okay, members, so assertion 1 is that we put in place arrangements for effective financial management during the year and for the preparation of the accounting statements. And yes means that this authority prepared its accounting statement in accordance with the accounts and audit regulations.
Right, so which, would members vote no on this? We'll do a vote on no. All in favour of voting no? I think that's unanimous. So we're voting no to assertion number 1. Move on to number 2.
We maintain an adequate system of internal control, including measures designed to prevent and detect fraud and corruption and review its effectiveness. Yes means that this authority made proper arrangements and accepted responsibility for safeguarding the public money and resources in its charge.
Again, I'm seeing shaking heads. So we're going to put it for a no vote. First, can we vote whether we are putting a no to this? All in favour of no? Any against? And any abstentions?
Are you voting?
So that's a no for 2. Moving on to number 3.
We have assured ourselves that there are no matters of actual or potential non-compliance with laws, regulations and proper practices that could have a significant financial effect on the ability of this authority to conduct its business or manage its finances. And yes means that this authority has only done what it has the legal power to do and has complied with proper practices in doing so. And proper practices, for clarification, is the practitioner's guide.
Again, I'm seeing them all shaking heads. So hopefully next year we're going with the experts. But this year it's all in favour of the no voting. So that's voting for. Any against? And any abstentions? Moving on to number 4.
We provided proper opportunity during the year for the exercise of electors' rights in accordance with the requirements of the accounts and audit regulations. The yes means that this authority, during the year, gave all persons interested the opportunity to inspect and ask questions about this authority's accounts.
And again, I will go with the no vote. All in favour of no? I think that's a unanimous vote. Thank you. Moving on to number 5.
We carried out an assessment of the risks facing this authority and took appropriate steps to manage those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and/or external insurance cover where required. Yes means that this authority considered and documented the financial and other risks it faces and dealt with them properly.
And again, I'll go with the no vote first. All in favour? Unanimous. Moving on to number 6.
We maintained throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems. Yes means that this authority arranged for a competent person, independent of the financial controls and procedures, to give an objective view of whether internal controls meet the needs of this small authority.
Again, we'll have a yes put to the floor on this one, so we'll vote on the yes vote, please, first. All in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? Go with number 7.
We took appropriate action on all matters raised in reports from internal and external auditors. Yes means that this authority responded to matters brought to its attention by internal and external audit.
Go no. All in favour of the no? Unanimous. Number 8.
We considered whether any litigation, liabilities or commitments, events or transactions occurring either during or after the year end have a financial impact on this authority and, where appropriate, have included them in the accounting statements. Yes means that this authority disclosed everything it should have about its business activity during the year, including events taking place after the year end is relevant.
Again, I'll go with a no vote first. All in favour? Again, that's a unanimous one. Number 9.
Trust funds, including charitable. In our capacity as the sole managing trustee, we discharged our accountability responsibilities for the funds/assets, including financial reporting and, if required, independent examination or audit. Yes means that this authority has met all of its responsibilities where, as a body corporate, it is the sole managing trustee of a local trust or trusts.
Would you like to speak? Are you going to no? I'll put the no vote first. All in favour of the no? And that's unanimous. And moving on to the last one, number 10.
We have put in place arrangements for the effective IT and data management in accordance with proper practices during the year under review. Yes means that this authority has made suitable arrangements for its IT and data management and has complied with proper practices in doing so.
Again, all in favour of the no vote? And again, that's unanimous. So that completes our annual statement of return form. So I think everyone is very clear on what we're doing with that. Thank you.
You were with us to see there.
To 9E, considering the group section 2 accounting statements 25/26 of the annual governance and accountability. Another, there has been, considered it to approve. Councillor Harry, you moving that we approve. I've got a proposal and a second. Councillor Hall, all in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. 9F. To note that the period for the exercise of corporate rights will commence on Wednesday, the 1st of July 2026 and end on Tuesday, the 11th of August 2026. Can I have someone